gonna kiss it.
Now? Yeah. This is my first time doing this. But I've heard a lot of storytellers who get this great material from this kind of scrappy, youthful period of their life where they have this great determination to make their dreams come true, to become like a writer or an actor, or go to college and they have to work all these bad jobs to accomplish these things, so they make it through and they do the jobs. And I was a lot like that in my 20s, except for the dreams or the determination and pretty much just lots of bad jobs all the time. I filled up my days and my nights with all these like odd employments just because I wanted to stay moving all the time. I didn't have any good ideas. I didn't really know what I wanted to be, but I just took the jobs. And I think that I felt like if I stayed in motion all the time, it would kind of like give me the illusion of having a dynamic life, when in reality I was actually completely stuck. I didn't know what was going on. So anyway, lots of bad jobs did give me the opportunity to meet a lot of kind of bad bosses, and I wanted to tell you some kind of interesting memories about one really self-aggrandizing bully that I worked for a period of time. His name was Alan, and he was the highest grossing male Mary Kay salesman in history. So I worked in his house. What can I tell you about him? He, let's see. He had a picture on his wall of Mary Kay Ash actually draping a 3/4 length mink coat around his shoulders when he was crowned king of sales. He was on his 6th pink car, seriously, and it was okay. It wasn't bad. I didn't love the things that he wanted me to do. I had to call up all the clientele and sort of like check in and see if they wanted some more stuff, and then a lot of times I had to call the dead accounts too and leave messages on their machine and say things like, "Hi Dottie, you're a hard lady to catch up with. We're starting to think that maybe you've switched to a different product line. I hope I'm wrong about this. Call us back so we don't have to delete you." And anyway, he would sit in this little room with me. We worked in his home. And he would sort of like listen and then tell me I wasn't convincingly following the script and, you know, criticize me, and just, I didn't really love the work. And so I also had to spend a lot of time in the product room. The product room are these like towering shelves, and I had to spend a lot of time stacking up this tiny merchandise according to his crazy inventory system, and he would just kind of come in after me and follow me around and criticize me and move the little boxes of eyeliner and foundation and lip liners and everything like around after I had stacked them and correct, you know, put them in the correct system. And so I could not understand how this guy could in any way justify my salary, because I was clearly not increasing his productivity. All he would do is just watch me and criticize me. So anyway, I came to understand at a certain point that it was just the case that Alan felt that like domestic personnel of any kind was money well spent, because he had a lot of domestic personnel. He had a very tidy 1,500 square foot house, and a lot of people worked there. There was like someone to do the yard, someone to clean up inside. There was someone who would come in if he wanted to like rearrange his home entertainment system or his computer. That was like the electronics domestic personnel would do that. And there was like even somebody else who worked in the Mary Kay office with us. It was really small. And I had a roommate, an undocumented Canadian, who she was really desperate for under-the-table employment, so he asked her to come aboard one time. Oh no! Oh man, I am not even close. Okay, so here's what happened. He was mean to me. I quit. It was bad. I left. I got an offer to go to this temp job in Washington D.C. I went to live there for the summer, and so I get up there, and unfortunately, like 2 weeks went by. And I had been living in New Orleans, and after 2 weeks I got up to DC, and like I'm watching on television the landfall and horrifying aftermath of a hurricane that totally like annihilated my city and destroyed everything. Like, you know, and all of a sudden I didn't know anything about my friends or my apartment. I had just gone up there to like house sit and do a temp job, and now I was kind of stuck. And so it was a weird time for me, but I was going crazy. Like, I didn't know what was happening in basically what was my whole world to me, and the world was sort of like progressing, like people are walking to work in DC, like how can this be going on? This isn't right. So anyway, I got back as fast as I could. Basically, whenever they got the water out of there, I tried to come back and come down, check it out, like reconnect with people, what's going on? So I got back to New Orleans, and so the thing that you guys might not know about what happened in New Orleans is there were these storms. There were like really terrible hurricanes. It was Katrina, then it was Rita, and then it was bone dry. It was like this unseasonable drought after the hurricanes, and it made the devastation really like hazardous because it was all this wreckage, and there were fires, and there was like, you know, dust in the air that was also hazardous and poisonous, and if you walk around, it's so hot and terrible, and you could just feel it on your skin and in your lungs. And I did this. I came back, and you know, it was like one of my first days back in town, and I'm walking around these neighborhoods that were like totally gone, wrecked, and there was just so much, and all of a sudden I realized that I was like right in Alan's neighborhood, and so I found his house, and I saw it, and I climbed in the window, and I looked around inside, just sort of was like checking it out, and nothing was recognizable. Of course, it was like black grime everywhere, disgusting. I could feel that like heat and poison on my skin, and I'm walking around, and I saw the product room, and I opened the door, and it was like this 1 foot deep pink cake, like just like undisturbed expanse across the room, an empty room. And what had happened was like the water had gone all the way up to the ceiling and melted down, and it was like paper pulp but pink. And so I'm sitting there in the dry, poisonous, dark hallway looking out over this thing, and all of a sudden I get this sensation. Maybe you guys know what it's like to wake up on the day after a fresh fallen snow, and you open the door and you're the first one up in your neighborhood, and it's like this undisturbed blanket of white snow, and you know what it makes you want to do. Like go play in it. So I stepped into the room, and I romped around, and just like romped and stomped and got my feet in the pink cake, and it was so awesome. And I thought about Alan and the belittling remarks and the bad jobs, and like all the bad jobs that had come before that, and just, you know, played to my heart's content. And then I climbed back out the window, back outside, and into the newborn world. Woo!